Hi everyone, let's talk a little bit about VoiceThread. So VoiceThread recently went through some updates, some minor changes, nothing too complicated, but we'll talk through them. So first is that the link to create a VoiceThread actually moved. So it used to be in Tools and now it's in Build Content. I'll show you that in a second. The other thing that changed is that now once you click VoiceThread in the Build Content menu, it'll actually open the VoiceThread menu. So it's a little bit different than what you previously were probably used to if you created VoiceThreads, but it should look pretty similar. So first, let's talk about where the VoiceThread link is. So it used to be in Tools. Now it moved over to Build Content, and it's in VoiceThread is down there. And so yeah, once you click that, which we'll do in a second, it'll actually open the VoiceThread menu instead of opening the Blackboard menu. And basically you'll do that second part, the Blackboard piece, at the end. You can go back in and edit something. So next, let's talk about how to actually build the new VoiceThread. So we're going to go and click on VoiceThread in the menu there. It's going to open the VoiceThread menu. From here, you'll probably see the same 4 choices that you're used to seeing if you've used VoiceThread before. For the most part, you're probably going to be using the bottom 2, the individual VoiceThread and assignment. And remember that individual allows you to create a VoiceThread, basically kind of like the lecture style, and allows you to either use an existing or use a new VoiceThread, while assignments allows you to create a watch, comment, or create a new assignment for students to do. So both are pretty easy to set up and they haven't really changed from this point on. So first, let's talk about the individual one. Let's click into it and we will create a new link for an existing VoiceThread. So, and I'd recommend to you that if you have any links prior to January 2021, that you do go out and follow this process. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the one I want to copy. I'm going to click that link to copy it. And when I do click that link, it will basically give me some options in terms of how I want to copy it and whether I want to include certain comments or not. And it'll basically allow me to remove comments from students from prior semesters. So I'm going to open it, give it a new name, and then go down to that drop box. So these options are super helpful, being that you can actually take out comments. So the first one that's selected is helpful, but the last one's probably the least helpful because you most likely have everything kind of recorded as a comment in terms of your voiceover or video. The middle one is helpful because it does take everyone else's comments out if you do have students that have commented on the VoiceThread in the past. I know that this VoiceThread just has my comments on it, so I'm going to choose that first option and click Save. And then once you do that, we can click that blue Share with Class button. And then from here, we're just giving this a name. So this is the name that Blackboard will see and that students would see in Blackboard. Click Save and Continue. And now when you scroll all the way to the bottom, as Blackboard likes to add new things directly to the bottom, you can then click on the little gray arrow next to it and scroll all the way up to the top and click Edit. And you get the same Blackboard options that you're probably used to seeing before you go into that VoiceThread menu. I don't have any changes, so I'm just going to click Cancel. And then if you click directly on the link and you go back into your VoiceThread, you do have the options to edit the VoiceThread. So once it loads up in the top left, there's that 3-line menu, and then you can click Edit. So that's how you would go in to create a link for an existing VoiceThread that you want to add to your course. So now let's talk about creating a link to a new VoiceThread. So we're going to start with the same kind of instructions that we've seen previously. Go to the Build Content and then go to VoiceThread. And then we're going to select Individual again. And then instead we're going to click Create a new VoiceThread instead of selecting one. First, we're going to upload our media. So I'm just going to upload a screenshot that I have. And this could really be any kind of media. I'd recommend that if you are doing a presentation or something that is coming from a native file like PowerPoint or Keynote, that you actually save it as a PDF. it'll actually keep the formatting and styling intact. We have seen folks upload PowerPoints or keynotes before, and the formatting does some weird things. But that media is basically the background file. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. You could add a description and tags if you wanted to. And then I'm going to go into playback options. So most of these by default are fine. The second one does come up fairly often, specifically like the first week of class. If you wanted to do an introduction, maybe you do like your introduction first, and then you have the students go in and give their introductions and you want them to upload a slide, that second option would be super helpful for that. But other than that, these should be pretty straightforward, but do take a look as some might be more relevant to you. Then we're going to click to go on. And now we're going to add our comment. So we click on that comment option, and it's going to open our VoiceThread for us. And we're going to look for that plus sign down the bottom and click that. So from here, you get all sorts of comment options. You get the text option. You can call in. You get, there's the text option. You can call in. You can also utilize the voice option, the camera, which is the video option, or upload a comment. So I'm going to choose just to do the text-based one, and I'm going to type out my comment, and then I'm going to click save, and this will add my comment to the VoiceThread. Now, what I recommend is that if you need to go to additional slides, using those arrows down the bottom right, and actually recording a new comment or posting a new comment for each slide. It just makes it a little bit easier if you ever need to go in and update anything. It'll prevent you from having to re-record large sections. So if you go one at a time and record slides using that plus icon, you can do that very easily. Also, just important to remind you that comments are both what the instructor creates and if a student goes in and actually comments on a VoiceThread. Sometimes that can be confusing, so I like to explain that just in case, maybe you haven't used VoiceThread before, or maybe you have and just wondering, how it works. All right, so now we'll keep moving forward here. So the other thing that's important to notice here is down the bottom right, you can click those little squares, and that'll allow you to go back and basically see all of your slides, but also to click that white plus icon, and you can add additional media. So then if we click it again, we'll go back to our VoiceThread and just see our general kind of main menu. Now, up at the top left, if you click those three bars and click edit, you'll go back to the main kind of create a new VoiceThread. You're going to click that blue share button. And this time we'll just do share with class directly because we're not making a copy. This is brand new. So again, we'll give it a name. This is the name that Blackboard will show as the name. Click save. And then click save and continue. Again, it'll add it all the way at the bottom. So there it is. Remember that you can click on it to edit it, or you can click right on the gray arrow to edit the Blackboard options as well. Now let's talk about building an assignment. So we're going to go back to build content. We're going to click the VoiceThread link. And it's a little bit different for the build assignment because we'll actually go in and build the assignment link, and then we can go back into Blackboard and click the edit options after. So we'll click that VoiceThread link, and once it loads, we're going to choose assignment over on the right side. And I'm going to focus on the create assignment, but you could also follow these instructions for the comment and watch assignments as well. So we're going to go to the create assignment, which as a reminder, basically will allow you to create an assignment that students have to submit to. And so we'll click on that and then click continue down on the bottom left. And then there's the options here for what you want students to do. So I usually recommend keeping that minimum, but they did just add maximum as an option there. But minimum is usually pretty good and pretty helpful. And just depending on your assignment, you could change it from 1 to 2 or what have you. Then moving down, there's the select which comment types will be allowed. Oftentimes folks will turn off the text option, that last option there, just based on whatever the assignment is, if they want students to give a presentation and do a vocal recording. Then down below, there's additional options and just allows you to do a couple different things. Just check these and make sure that they look right for you, for your students as well. And then down, once we get down there, under playback, there's a couple additional options. And then permissions allow students to make a copy. I usually recommend turning that off when you get down to it. And then from there, obviously you can see there's a lot of settings that you choose in terms of what you want. So yeah, there's the allow students to make a copy. I turn that off. And then I would recommend turning the student gallery view on. This is basically allows students to use the same link that they submit to their assignment to actually go back in and view other students' assignments, to make comments and reply and engage with their content. So student gallery view is really helpful. It used to be that you'd have 2 links that you'd have to add with every VoiceThread, but now it's just one. So I'm going to click continue. I'll give it a name. You could add any additional information here and what the students will see when they submit. And then I'm going to go ahead and just double check all of those, but those look good, and we're going to click publish. And now it'll take us back to Blackboard. If we scroll all the way down, it'll get added down at the bottom. If we click into it, it'll look the same in terms of, if you're familiar with the kind of grading for VoiceThread, it looks the exact same, same options that are there. I'm going to go back to the Blackboard folder where that content lives. And then this time, I'll show you how to actually edit it. So if you go back to it, hit that little gray circle, go to edit. And then if you wanted to change the points, because it will add a default points by default, you can do that. You can also decide if you want it to be available to students or not. You can set a due date. And then if you had any description that you wanted to add, or files as well. So then I'm going to go ahead and click submit. You get the same Blackboard options that you usually do. And now it'll be updated there down at the bottom. So I'll just open it again, just so you can see, and it all should be ready to go. So now I'll go back to Blackboard and just show you from a student preview perspective. Stuff really didn't change that much for students. So I'm going to go down to the VoiceThread I just created, click on it, and remember, I'm going to be in student preview mode, so it's going to look a little different, but I can start uploading my content. So just add an image, and then I could go in and add more media, or I can record my comment and keep moving. And if I click continue, there's a little comment bubble down the bottom. But then over on the right, you can see there is that student gallery button. So that button will allow students to easily get in to comment on other students' content as well.